This is the most famous portrait of Sir Winston Churchill. It was captured by photographer Yusuf Karsh in 1941, following Churchill's address to the Canadian House of Commons in Ottawa. So iconic is this portrait that 81 years on, it still adorns the British £5 note. The original portrait has been a staple at the magnificent Château Laurier reading lounge since 1998, attracting hundreds of thousands of visitors wishing to see one of the most famous pictures of all time. Although, on August 20th, 2022, the original picture was reported stolen and replaced with a forgery, in what is now becoming Ottawa's biggest art heist yet. Born in 1908, Yusuf Karsh is a Canadian Armenian regarded as the best portrait photographer of the 20th century. Karsh grew up during the Armenian genocide, during which some of his family were murdered. He later recalled that, "My recollections of those days comprise a strange mixture of blood and beauty, of persecution and peace." Karsh came to Canada on December 31st, 1923, arriving in Halifax, Nova Scotia. He then moved to Sherbrooke, Quebec, where Karsh began learning photography from his uncle, who gave him a box Brownie camera. With his prized possession, Karsh moved to Boston, Massachusetts, and apprenticed for John H. Garrow, the most prominent American photographer of the time, who had made a name for himself photographing Boston celebrities. Karsh then settled in Canada's capital, initially working for photographer John Pewis, and opened his first studio on Spark Street. In 1972, he would relocate his studio and reside at the infamous Château Laurier Hotel, just a stone's throw away from Parliament Hill and Canada's nervous center. Yusuf soon became known as Karsh of Ottawa, which would become his trademark signature. He quickly struck up a friendship with Prime Minister William Lyon Mackenzie King, who would help him organize meetings with celebrities. When asked why he only photographed influential people, Karsh stated that, "I do believe it is the minority who make the world go round, not the majority." Karsh's claim to fame came on December 30th, 1941, when he captured the portrait that is now known as the Roaring Lion, in the chamber of the Speaker of the House of Commons in the Canadian Parliament. This was after Churchill delivered a speech on World War II and the encroaching threat of Nazism to the members of Parliament. Afterwards, a meeting between Karsh and Churchill was arranged by Canadian Prime Minister Mackenzie King. Churchill's now infamous scowl was the result of having his customary cigar ripped from his mouth by Karsh just moments before the portrait was taken. It is said that Churchill seldom allowed his picture taken, but Karsh's reputation proved to be his saving grace in this instance. To say the shot was incredible is an understatement. According to The Economist, Karsh's portrait of Churchill is the most reproduced picture in the history of photography, and one of the most iconic portraits ever taken. By the time of his death, his work was included in numerous museums, including the Metropolitan Museum of Art, the Museum of Modern Art in New York, the National Gallery of Canada in Ottawa, the National Portrait Gallery in London, the Art Institute of Chicago, the St. Louis Art Museum, and the Eastman Museum, to name a few. In 1987, the National Archives of Canada acquired the complete collection of Karsh's items, including the negatives, prints, and transparencies produced and retained by Karsh since 1933. Library and Archives Canada currently has 355,000 items in its Karsh collection, including all of his 150,000 negatives kept at a facility in Gatineau, Quebec. Karsh's widow, Estrelita, gifted more than 100 photographic prints to the National Portrait Gallery in Washington, D.C. Karsh moved back to Boston in 1997, and he passed away on July 13th, 2002, after complications following surgery. A private funeral was held in Ottawa, and he was interred at the Notre Dame Cemetery. On June 9th, 2017, marking the 150th anniversary of Canada, a bust of Karsh was unveiled in front of the Château Laurier. It was created by Canadian Armenian sculptor Megredith Terakajian. It was a gift to Canada from the people of Armenia on the 25th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between both countries. Today, the Karsh Award, dedicated to Yusuf and his brother Malak Karsh, is awarded by the City of Ottawa every 2 years to an established professional artist for outstanding artistic work in the field of photography. Since just over a week ago, the theft of the Churchill portrait has been all the rage, as the story resembles the script of any heist movie. It was Château Laurier General Manager Geneviève Dumas who discovered the original portrait had been replaced with a replica. The fact of the matter is, all portraits at the Château Laurier are specially bolted to the wall and thus require specific tools to be removed. Even more damning, evidence suggests that the original portrait was stolen from the hotel between December 25th, 2021 and January 6th, 2022. The replica put in place is slightly smaller and hangs differently from the wall, yet it took several months for the theft to be discovered. Jerry Felder, who was hired by Karsh himself in 1979 and is now director of Karsh's estate, got a call from the Château Laurier's general manager on Saturday. She was sent a picture of the portrait, and she knew right away that the signature was a forgery. Robert Whitman, a former FBI agent, suggests this is an inside job, with the perpetrator of the crime knowing full well the monetary value of the original Karsh portrait. Some experts place the value of the portrait well into the six figures. In fact, last year, a simple replica piece sold for over $81,000. Unfortunately, time-lapse is not only the biggest issue with this case, as this has led many to believe that the original piece has already been sold. Karsh lived at the Château Laurier and had a studio for nearly 20 years, and a collection of 15 of his portraits are displayed in the reading lounge as well as the Karsh Deluxe Suite. These portraits are all anchored to the walls, and the system employs 4 separate sets of locks, which was the most sophisticated mechanism available in 1998. The artwork was stolen at a time when COVID restrictions were in place, forcing all staff and guests to wear masks. Anyone with information on the whereabouts of the original artwork is asked to please contact the Château Laurier, the Ottawa Police Services, or the Yusuf Karsh estate. One can only hope that with time and research, the original artwork will be found and returned to the Château Laurier, where it rightfully belongs.